Morale is astronomically high in the Japanese fleets. After being allowed more supplies to fuel their progress in the Pacific theatre, and after clearing the way to project their power after destroying an American battleship task force, the Japanese are looking in an excellent position to progress their war effort. With these new supplies, it's looking like the Japanese will be able to progress through the Philippines bases and target Cebu specifically. The only question remains now is, where are the American carriers? With the majority of the enemy battleships downed, what is the main threat left for the Japanese to walk over in the Pacific theatre? Hello and welcome, my good students, back to our War on the Sea Let's Play series as the Imperial Japanese Navy, where of course we did previously sink a New Mexico battleship, which is absolutely brilliant. So the remainder of that task force should still be south of Truk over here. So our Guam Defense Task Force is going back to rearm and such, and I think we're going to be pretty much okay on the damages there, although we do have quite a few damaged components on the Mutsu here. They are not overly damaged, and the overall integrity of those compartments is actually pretty damn decent. However, we might want to review Fubuki, because 16 total damaged compartments on a destroyer isn't always good, of course. We'll have to double check the integrity of those soon and see if we want to swap this out with another Fubuki later on. So the aim of today is to try and push back the remainder of that enemy task force from Truk permanently, if they are not already retreating. And I think we're actually going to try looking on finally landing on Cebu over here and take over this level 1 airfield. I believe we also get 5 engineering and 5 fuel income extra when we take Cebu, which is absolutely brilliant. Cannot complain with that at all. So you can see our invasion supplies with our troops coming in first. Very, very heavy on the troops with some supplies to back them up there. But we should have the invasion supplies over here, majority supplies over here. So that's actually very nice indeed. We should be able to support a decent landing on Cebu and take that without any issues. We are going to move down, of course, with our Akagi and Hiryu carriers. Let's move them into a decent position now. And they can, of course, cover the landings if they do get picked up by the radar down here and Manila decides to reinforce with fighters and bombers and such. Also, as a side note, we have of course sent over a couple submarines in the form of Task Force 90 over here, and this is to double check whether the enemy carriers are in fact active. And in fact, I think we can see it says 1 CV1 AO. That's quite likely just cargo ships over here. Tell you what, let's be very cheeky and go into that right now. And what do we have? Quite likely cargo ships. Where are we? Yeah, just cargo ships. That's very unfortunate. A couple of Patapscos, not to worry there. So the reason for going to Midway in particular is because it is, of course, the enemy's home base. And in my test runs before we started this series, which was a long time ago now, I did station a submarine over here to see what was going on. And you can see carrier after carrier after carrier going in and out of Midway. So I'm hoping that's the case now, so that we can confirm they are indeed active, and we need to be wary of that. Once again, I am thinking of taking Iwo Jima back very soon indeed. Once we've landed on Cebu and gone back to pick up some supplies and troops, perhaps we can land straight away on Iwo Jima and force the enemy to come back over to the Bonin Islands over here and engage our Task Force 104 and its, of course, supply interceptors 2 and such. To have Masashi somewhere about as well. I'm sure she's looking for a fight and very eager for one. So let's get into it. Those are the goals for today. See what we can catch. Let's go. Well, as soon as I open my big mouth and say that Masashi is raring for a fight, it looks like straying too close to Iwo Jima has alerted the enemy Dauntlesses stationed there. So they have launched out just 3 Dauntlesses there. Of course, not a worry at all. Not only with the massive flak fire coming from our task force, but the new addition of Ryujo will see some new pilots get some fresh blood. Well, in a surprise turn of events, the Americans have actually beaten us to a landing on the Philippines. You can see they have actually bombarded and landed on Del Monte. We do have a fair amount of supplies and troops there, so we can hold out until reinforcements arrive in the form of the planned invasion of Cebu over here. So we may have to do a little re-invasion here, a little defence, that's absolutely fine. And then depending on how we look after that, we can plant troops onto Cebu straight after, but we'll have to see about that. So we are of course put down to 0 airfield and 0 port over here, so we're not going to have any defensive bonuses in that respect. And that's rather unlucky indeed. But it would be a shame to lose this base and these troops and supplies here, so we are going to actively defend that. What we're also going to try and do is see which way this force retreats towards. Okay, so it's coming northwards, is it? Interesting. So we've also got something from Task Force 90 over here. That will just be some cargo ships. We might just ignore that for now. But what we're going to do is double check exactly what we're sending over here, because we do have the Akagi and Hiryu. Should not be a problem whatsoever there, as long as of course we do get sight in time before they do intercept our invasion supplies over here. We have to watch out for that indeedy. Will they go south towards Dutch East Indies, or will they decide to be very aggressive and curl around the north of the Philippines over here and look at Manila? Not the best ideas there, but you never know. They act in mysterious ways, these allies. Let's see if we see what we can do. Well, unfortunately we couldn't bag that enemy task force there. It must have retreated south before we could get scouting off, which is rather unfortunate. So it will be about somewhere. That's about as accurate as our reports get at the moment, unfortunately. But we're looking fairly decent on Del Monte. We've not suffered too many losses, and we are just about to unload everything from this task force here. So let's do that. Double check everything has indeed dropped off. And indeed it has. So what's we looking like on Del Monte now? Absolutely brilliant. We certainly need more supplies to shore up our defences. Those will certainly run down very quickly. But of course that's what the reinforcing supply ships are for there, with their huge amount of supplies there. So that'd be absolutely brilliant. Shouldn't lose too many troops at all there, provided our supplies get down in time for that. We will be burning through the supplies very quickly though until that happens. We do have a 0.49 supplies to troop ratio there, which is less than ideal. So I'm sure you don't need me to tell you there. So let's pull these out of the area of conflict there, and out of radar range of course, and behind our carriers. And they can wait around, and they can be ready to pounce on Cebu later on if we feel that would be safe. So, with that being said, we are also trying to resupply truck at the moment because we're very low on fuel there, not able to fully replenish our Guam Defence Task Force there after going backwards and forwards with these carriers previously, and of course Fighting Force 2 had to pick up a few supplies as well. That's not to worry, not really pressed for that at the moment. We do of course have a couple carriers over here if anything major does happen, so that's absolutely brilliant there. So let's carry on, and fingers crossed we can pick up an enemy task force really. Let's go. Well, a good amount of time has passed and we have identified what appears to be a carrier task force just south of Guam. It is very possible that that task force we previously sighted has made the distance, so we are going to go all out and launch some cautionary zeros for air cover, and we're going to look at launching some attack aircraft from our Kaga over here to try and get that. We're also going to launch some Donryus from Guam to see if we can bomb something else. Let's see if that really is that carrier task force. But of course, it is only a misidentification on the map and is only a couple enemy cargo ships. Well, they shall pay the price for straying so close to our carriers. Well, well, well. 2 hours after sighting that minor enemy supply task force south of Guam, we have found north of Puerto Princesa a very substantial and very threatening enemy task force north of Puerto Princesa. Our 2 submarines here have sighted a South Dakota battleship, the final of the 2 in the series, as well as a County class heavy cruiser and a Perth light cruiser with a smattering of destroyers escorting them. So we shall focus down the 2 cruisers in this battle with the aim of softening up the task force for a later strike. But unfortunately, it appears our lead was not quite far enough towards the county, so we just narrowly miss hitting the leading destroyer. Will this mean that we can't hit the county? Well, unfortunately, it's looking like it. The lead not quite great enough. Can only hope that the Perth isn't so lucky. Well, 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 4 hours after that submarine encounter, we have sighted just south of Iwo Jima an Allied invasion task force. Not entirely sure where this could be heading just yet. We shall head to the strategic map to have some estimations, but this is escorted by a heavy cruiser and a light carrier escort, so nothing to be scoffed at here. Let's see what we can do on the strategic map and see where this is indeed headed, shall we? And you can see that task force is just here, spotted by this Jake. So we are, of course, going to mark that up. We're actually going to mark it as CV to draw my attention to it just that much more. And what do we have in the area? We have Masashi task force in the area with Ryujo, of course. So we're going to chase that. I imagine it's going to carry on going down this way. Towards Iwo Jima and Okinawa. What we can do is we can put our supply interceptors 2 southwards over here to try and intercept, and of course we're going to focus some more Jakes and such out to try and find that task force and make sure it doesn't leave our sights there. So just going to move this Jake out over here, creeping recon over there. Be very nice indeed. We're out of the scout planes on our Congos there. Absolutely fine. We do have some heavy cruisers about, of course. So from Haguro we are going to move out over here, and we're gonna move like this because of course we are moving our whole task force, and that's going to change how the planes move on their patrols, of course. So it's not going to be static patrol routes here. And let's just mark that up a little wider to our south there, and that'll move of course with our task force. Do of course have our Unyo over here. I'm going to keep the remaining zeros there as possible air cover for any task forces over here to perhaps cover supply interceptors too. We do have our minor resupplies coming down as well. Can we launch out anything from our Masashi task force? Can certainly launch out more Jakes over here. So we're going to go specifically towards that, and we're going to just curl around over here on a repeated patrol there in a straight line here. And I think we're going to do that a couple times so that we don't necessarily lose that. Going to come over here like so. See if that doesn't start going directly south. With the Isuzu, we're going to launch out as well. That's going to launch more particularly along here. I think that will do for now, so let's keep an eye out for that, because that's a very, very interesting task force there. Clearly going to invade rather than reinforce Iwo Jima, I think. So they'll probably go for Okinawa, looking at their position at the moment. I think if they're going for mainland Japan, you could really just sneak out here in a massive blind spot we have and go for Yokosuka, and we wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Do have our engineering task force, however, to pick up anything really meaningful we will have to get resupplied yet again, and that will happen in just a few days time, so not to worry though. In fact, I think 2 days time has been 5 days since we have last been resupplied, so that's all very nice and dandy there. How close are we with our supplies over here? Still quite a way away. How long is that going to take to get down if we make the route a little more direct? That's going to take 34.8 hours. Not the greatest amount of time. You can see we are winning that, absolutely. But again, it's more a case of trying not to burn through too many supplies there. So we shall end the video when either we land on Del Monte or catch that task force over here and tease you with perhaps a engagement on that if possible for the next video. Fingers crossed, eh? Let's carry on. Well, unfortunately, what came first is landing our supplies onto Del Monte. How are we looking over here? Yeah, absolutely burnt through so many supplies there, and quite a few troops as well because of the lack of supplies there. So we're going to go and, of course, unload all of that if possible. Everything has been done, hasn't it? Yes, indeed. So how does that measure up? Much, much better, and that should mean that we can move straight on to Cebu. So I'll let that roll over, I think, and see what happens. We, of course, did lose sight of that carrier task force, unfortunately. So we have moved our supply interceptors right on top of Okinawa in a panic mode, really. Just really thinking that they are going to land on Okinawa if we don't do something about it. And we do, of course, have our Musashi task force over here now doing a circular patrol with all of its scouting aircraft, of course, to try and catch that out. Very worrying where that's gone otherwise. Could possibly have gone straight down to Guam or Saipan, but I think we'd known about that by now. That could definitely have made that time very, very quickly indeed. Would have seen it by now. So I think we're going to waste around, see what we do about Del Monte, and end it there. Let's carry on. Well, might actually be ending it here, guys. Just north of Puerto Princesa, as soon as I finished speaking just now, we've sighted something that was identified as a convoy led by a CVL. So we've launched out some unprotected nails with armor-piercing bombs, not fully trusting the advice there from previous spottings, but it looks like it was absolutely right. Let's see what we have. We have, of course, a New Orleans. We have a smattering of landing ships here, and we do have a CVL indeed. So the CVL is going to be our primary target here. If we form the nails up into one group to begin with, we're going to form them into a box at the moment, slow them down. We're going to actually increase our altitude a tad, and of course aim a little more precisely over here. Go straight over to that carrier, shall we? So it's a hit and run attack, of course. Not much we can do after we've dropped our payload, of course, but we're really hoping that they haven't launched out any fighters already, because of course we went in without fighter protection of our own. Now, what's very interesting about this position? Well, we do of course have Puerto Princesa, which is where these nails are launched from, but from happy timing, we also have our invasion support task force very close, and they have launched out some fighters, which is rather a shame there. We're going to increase our speed and altitude. We're also going to tell people to attack very soon indeed. The box formation should help us out a tad here, but not too much, I don't think. What's really going to help us out is playing around with our altitude here, but we are going to tell ourselves to attack now. As you can see, we're getting very, very close to the drop area. Now, I should only need 3 bomb hits, but of course that's not going to happen, is it? especially with the heavy amount of fighters. You can see we are already losing planes in droves here. We are tightening up our formation and we should be about ready to drop. We are indeed. That is excellent. So 4 bombs off. Not too worried about losing the nails now. It is more about hitting the carrier. Some very decent spacing on those bombs, as we can see. But will they hit, and will they actually be active rather than be duds? Let's shut up and find out. Well, apparently not, eh? No luck there, no such luck, but not to worry, we've lost all of our nails. Let's go out and show exactly what I mean by our positioning. So I didn't actually mark it off, but that's roughly here. Let's put a rough marker about. It was picked up by our radar over here, and we do have invasion support right outside. So that should certainly be able to take a surface engagement there. We do have Zuiho as well for air cover and some light attack aircraft support there. So I would guess that they are going to go for Del Monte and Puerto Princesa. Puerto Princesa being the priority targets. We're actually going to redirect our ships over here, and that, I think, guys, will be about it for today. I'm going to tease you with that. I'm going to tease you very hard. I know you like it. So, thank you very much for watching once again. Schedule this week will be back to normal. I do have much more free time, but it's going to be very hectic for me over the end of the month. I am expecting to move to new accommodation around the beginning of February, end of January-ish, if things go smoothly. And of course, they always do these things. So, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I shall see you in the future. May all of your nights and days be auspicious. Goodbye.